This is one of the coolest gigs in the world if you can get it. This, what I'm doing right now, I got an idea I want to share with you guys and I'm creating content. And the crazy thing is, it's built up to the point where I can make money doing it or get money making opportunities off the back of it. Not tons here on YouTube yet, but we're working on it. But on the other platforms. And it's crazy. It's awesome. This didn't exist 15 years ago. That's why we've seen so many big time athletes start creating content and YouTube channels in recent years. It's appealing, but why don't most of them stick with it? This is something I struggled with for years. I watched my peers, both while I was playing and the first few years out of playing, create content and get opportunities. While I was dabbling for really almost 5 years creating content before I finally went all in. And for the past 18 months, I've been committed to posting content almost daily. So why is it so difficult for athletes or really any aspiring content creators to stick with it? I've got a theory that I don't think you'll hear anywhere else. See, social media is a game, a baseball game specifically. Now stick with me. This metaphor is one of the best I've come up with.
Most people are in the stands. They don't necessarily like everything about the game, but they're there for at least one reason. Whether it's to see something amazing, whether it's to have a few beers with some friends, or if it's to cheer and feel a part of something. The game changed for me when I went from cheering to playing, when I went from consuming to creating. Now, when you first start playing and you don't know much about baseball, you look at success as binary. Did I hit a home run or not? I wanted to hit a home run every time when I first started. I wanted millions of views on every post because that's the stories you hear, and that was my standard. And naturally, when that didn't happen, I would get disappointed and discouraged, and then that would lead to burnout. I mean, even the legend Barry Bonds only hit a home run every 13 at-bats. I needed a better approach, and I learned to accept the fact that the majority of my posts would just be base hits. I also realized that I would inevitably whiff and strike out from time to time. The only thing that I could control was the quality of my at-bats. Was I intentional with the post, or was I just throwing stuff at the wall and seeing what stuck? Did I put my best foot forward? Is there clear effort in that post? And if I was in the stands, would I appreciate that performance? Would I watch that piece of content? And I found that as I focused on the quality of at-bats, I improved. And as I improved, I stacked up more base hits. And as I stacked up more base hits, when I did hit a homer, more runs would come through.
So bringing it all back around, I think a lot of athletes quit creating because they get their expectations set just incredibly high. Regardless of the quality of the video, their name and the novelty of the fact that, hey, this professional athlete is posting content usually leads to their first few videos popping. They typically hit home runs in their first at bat. Then they start putting in more effort, but the novelty wears off and then their numbers start to dip. Then this doesn't compute. They're athletes, right? Work and practice should lead to better results. They might keep at it, but eventually they'll get discouraged and they don't create long enough to get to a point where they stop seeing the results as binary. It's either strike out or hit a home run. That's their only gauge. They look at Barry Bonds or they look at Mr. Beast and think there's no way I'll ever be able to do that. They don't realize Mr. Beast was in the cage. He spent 6 years before people really cared what he was posting. He made a video where he just spent 17 hours saying Logan Paul's name 100,000 times. Look at what success looks like with content creation. It reminds me of something a content friend told me called the Dunning-Kruger Effect. The worst thing that can happen to an athlete is having their first video go viral, and science backs me up on this. The Dunning-Kruger Effect is a cognitive bias where people with low ability overestimate their competence while experts underestimate theirs. In short, the less you know, the more confident you are. And the more you know, the more you realize what you don't know. So how did I push past this valley of despair stage? Well, 3 areas stick out. 1, a belief that I can do this. When I see my peers creating certain kinds of football content or guys on TV that have football takes, I'm sitting there watching them with a firm belief that like, yo, I can do that. 2, I approach this like a business. And when you flip the switch from, hey, content is just this fun, yay content to, no, this is my business and business means work. To me, I find that as a more healthy way to approach content creation because when it's a business, oh, this is fun. This is great work, man. I could do this all day. By the time this video gets out, it's probably going to be, a 3-hour scripting process, a 2-hour filming process, and then I hire out my editors. But then that's another, 3-4 hour process. That's a whole work day dedicated to this video. When you look at it as a business, it's fun. If you look at it as fun, well, man, I'd rather watch Netflix or something. And 3, the valley of despair is where you differentiate yourself. If there was no valley, then everyone and their mothers would create content. If there was no valley, every single quarterback that ever did anything would have a YouTube channel. That's not the case. There's a lot of quarterbacks out there that had much better playing careers than me that probably would want to have a voice or whatever, but they're not sitting down, doing the work and putting their voice out there and making content. And that's no different than any other line of work. You're gonna have down periods, but if you're able to see past that and grind past that, that's where you can find success. And one theme I have to call out in this video, because I don't think that the concept would be complete without it, is how much easier it is to start creating when you're on the back end of your career rather than when you're in the front end or the prime of your career. And that is a theme that I have seen time and time again. And I think it's for two reasons. The first is there's this connotation that if you're focused on content, that means you're not all in on your sport, and the whole like Mamba mentality thing of like, hey, you got to keep focused. And if you're not keep focused, well, then you're going to get cut tomorrow. And as the years go on, where you establish yourself and people and coaches and, you know, front office people realize, no, this guy's legit. This is just his side hobby because you can't play football 24 hours a day. Then they're more willing to accept the fact that, all right, he posts content. That one is somewhat natural. The second one, though, is I think a lot of athletes see the light at the end of the tunnel or the light at the end of their playing career, and they're like, oh, crap. Do I want to go have a normal job or do I want to have this fun creative job? Well, the whole alienating the normal job is a separate video because I think athletes that do that to their downfall. But you get to the end of the road and you're like, man, this whole content podcast, right? These people just put a mic in front of my face, man. I could talk sports all day. Yeah, I'd like to do that. And I get it, man. It's fun talking sports and it's fun talking what's on your heart. But the thing that I would push athletes for, and I was guilty of it, I wish I would have started 5 years earlier than I did creating content. But if you know that's the lane that you want to be in, start long before you ultimately are going to hang up the cleats or the shoes or whatever it is. Because the reality is when you're playing, you look better, your stories are better, your comedy is more humorous. Anything that you touch in the content world while you're playing is 10x more valuable and more productive than when you're not playing. Treat content creation like a game of baseball. Go up there, get quality at bats, work the count, wear the pitcher down, and if you look up and you're batting 300 and 3 out of every 10 posts pop for you, you're on the path to success. Hey, if you've watched this far, I appreciate it. Consider hitting that like button down below and subscribe to the channel as well, because I'm coming out with daily videos on YouTube. And this video specifically is part of a series I'm doing for the next 3 weeks, 5 total episodes. In my head, I'm calling it Thursday Therapy, where I dive into a subject that I've either struggled with in the past or I'm actively struggling with, and I give you my thoughts and insights and break it down a little bit. But there's a lot more to come. Thanks for hanging, and I'll see you next time.